My topic is student-centered learning versus teacher-centered learning approach. Obviously, to reiterate, my name is Dr. Will Jama, or Mr. Will Jama, um, teacher here at King Khalid University, Mahala campus. I'm from America, been teaching here for 1 year and 3 months. So I think this is one of the most important topics and methods in the ESL teaching fields, and I am very happy to be sharing this information with you guys. I'm going to try to keep this as short and brief, but also very interactive as possible. So when I ask you guys a question, just one person at a time, please respond. Okay, so we're going to move to some problematic teaching issues, okay? I've been teaching for about 10 years now, and I've seen some teaching issues that I would like to talk to you guys about. So basically, one of the biggest issues is lack of student involvement and participation, classroom management, teacher controlled classrooms, lack of interest in learning from students, teacher speaking and students listening, and no creativity in the lesson plans or teaching styles, and also lack of student leadership and empowerment. Okay, can someone please give me any problematic teaching issues they've came across? Okay, if you'd like to answer, just turn on your mic, please. We're talking about problematic teaching issues. Okay, would someone like to chime in on any issue they face as a teacher?
Yes, yes. Students are reluctant to talk.
Okay, very good, Anhar. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Well, to be quite frank with you, I've had students who just like show up like on the screen, like their names are present, but they don't say anything, you know?
Oh, okay. You're referring to the online teaching. They're just present but not absent in terms of their participation.
Yes, like physically or like virtually present, but not like spiritually or mentally present.
Very, very good. Thank you. Okay, good. Um, Anyone else? Any problematic teaching issues or problem you've came across, whether it's online or in the
Mm,
classroom?
Um, I don't think it's actually, well, you can call it problematic, but I think the problem is, sorry, my name is Mr. Nisha. Um, I think it's more, especially when you're teaching learners, second language learners, um, ESL learners, especially, mm, for them to respond in English. Um, it's like, I won't say a fear factor, but for them being, it's not the native English speaking, language, should I say, it doesn't encourage them to speak, you know?
Mm, mm.
So I guess we have to get over that barrier first, you know? I think the best way is uh, try to come out there, be friendly, but not as friendly as a pally kind of thing, but try to make them comfortable. Try to strike something that you have in common in cultures or in sport or something like that to get them interactive in the class so they can start speaking, you know? So that's what I could think about as why some learners just mute themselves in the
Very,
classroom situation.
very good,
Okay,
Nishal.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. Anyone else before we move on? Okay. Yes, of course, these problems are always present with us, but we can combat them by applying some simple logistics and rules and tactics that I will kind of discuss with you guys in this lecture. Okay, so now in student-centered teaching, okay, is teaching designed for the student? Is teaching designed for the teacher? Is teaching designed by the students or student designs the lesson? Would someone try to answer in what we
I
do
think the
in
student,
Go ahead,
I
Nishal.
think the student, sorry, man, to cut you there. I
Go
think
ahead.
the student designs the lesson and the teacher merely becomes, or the lecturer, a facilitator in the entire uh, aspect of whatever the topic is. Right.
Okay.
So that's what is learner-centered education is all about, where the students make up their own activities and right, and the teacher merely is just a facilitator, facilitating the entire project. Thank you.
Very good. Do I have anyone else that would like to chime in about student-centered teaching? What do you think is the approach?
Yeah, I have about 7 years ago, I learned that student-centered teaching is when students participate more so than the teacher themselves. So it's getting the students to interact more and speak more rather than the old traditional method where the teacher stands in front of the class and explains everything away and expects the students to listen for 45 to 50 minutes. I think that's what student-centered teaching is all about.
Very good. Very good, Kabir. That's a great answer, man. Great. Anyone else? Okay. So you'll learn a little bit more about exactly what student-centered teaching is. Both of you guys gave great answers. So we'll move on. Okay. What is student-centeredness? Is it focuses on the teacher, focuses on the content, focuses on the student, or focuses on the material? Okay, there are 17 of you guys participating, so I would like to get a variety of different answers from different participants. So, what do you think student-centeredness means out of those four categories? Which one do you think it applies to?
I actually think it applies more to the student itself.
Okay, good. So focuses on the student rather than focusing on the content, material, or teachers. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear from the phrase, it's student-centeredness, right? The teacher bit is out of the question. So the only feasible option here is that it focuses on the student.
Very good. Using your critical thinking skills. Great job. Okay. Now, who should talk more when it comes to the classroom, the teacher or the student?
Of course, the student. You can't just keep blabbering, standing up there. You know what I mean? You have to be like 80% student, and the rest of it like maybe 20%.
Oh, is this Abdul Hassan? Thank you very much. So you're saying it would be more focused on. Go ahead.
If anyone did CELTA, they would know that it's like 80% student and then 20% teacher talk time. They gotta like, spread out the talk time. That is
Okay.
all.
Very good. Now, Abdul Hassan, if you did the CELTA, could you tell me what the difference between TTT versus STT is?
Can you repeat all that again? I got a phone call coming in.
Okay, would someone like to answer? What is TTT versus STT?
Yeah, triple T refers to teacher talking time and STT refers to student talking time. STT is what I guess your topic is about. It's student-centered learning, right?
Yes. Very good. Obviously, this will go on to the next one. What is the difference between TTT versus STT? So basically, teacher talking time is the amount of time that the teacher spends talking in class versus STT, which is the amount of time that students spend talking in class. So that's basically something you learn when you're taking your CELTA or your TESOL is that you want to have a good balance of TTT versus STT, and it goes a long way in classroom management and student etiquette and the performance of students. So basically, this is what Abdul Hassan was referring to. It's the 70-30 method, which is that 30% of the time the teacher should be speaking, leaving the students the maximum time of 70%. So basically, if the teacher keeps on talking, the students will have less time to be productive, to do things for reading, writing, activities. So a good teacher maximizes student talking time and minimizes the teacher talking time. So research has indicated that this method is great for student involvement, student productivity levels go up, because the teacher is not taking up so much of the classroom time, talking, giving instructions. More, they're giving the students time to engage and develop in the learning process and achieving their goals of studying whatever language they're studying or whatever the subject they're studying. So this is something you want to try to apply in your basic day-to-day teaching, is that you want to minimize the amount of time you talk to 30% and maximize the amount of time that students talk, which is 70%. Here are some disadvantages, okay? I would like you guys to give me something that's not on here that you might have noticed from teacher talking time. Can anyone give me some disadvantages that they can think of when it comes to teacher talking time? And please use the mic because, and just unmute yourself if you want to say something, please, because I cannot see the chat. Because I'm seeing
Hello, I will.
Yes.
I have the impression that if you give students a chance to talk and they don't talk, there's a long moment of silence. If you know what I mean, it's kind of awkward.
Okay, very good. That's good. That's a good point to emphasize. Anyone else like to chime in about some of the disadvantages they think of about teacher talking time?
Yeah, I would add in that excessive use of TTT leads to boredom on the part of the students.
Okay, very good. That's one of the points. Teachers talking time can make boring the class. Okay, it can make class very boring. It kind of takes up the time for the students to practice, for them to do the activities, do the exercises.
It already says boredom on the PowerPoint presentation, but one other idea I can think of is that if you don't distribute any talk time to the students, or maybe if you just tell one student to talk, he's just going to keep talking the whole time. There's always that one student that tries to be the star student in the classroom. So if you're talking too much, then maybe you're just relying on maybe one other student, but that's not really like equally distributing anything, right?
Mm-hmm. So you want to get more of all the students equal, equality basically in terms of the talking time. So you don't want one student to over dominate, and you also don't want no students to participate either. So you need to have a
Yes.
strike a balance between those two. Okay, very good. So here are student talking times. Okay, so obviously the biggest advantage is that the more students do, the more they learn. So students learn through language. Obviously, they learn through engagement. They learn through mistakes, and they learn through, feedback. So if you do give them time, obviously, when they're learning and they're developing a language, as we are ESL teachers, they need more practice. They need constructive criticism. The speaker yesterday was talking about positivity and not negativity. So the more that students talk, they try to learn a second language or a third language, and you want to give them that ample time to basically be able to speak and develop their skills, okay, whether it's speaking, writing, or reading. So basically the whole student-centered learning is let your students do the work. Engage with them. Why, how, what, where. It's all about student success, engagement, and involvement. You want to be basically a canvas, and you want them to basically paint on that. You want to give them the knowledge, but you don't also want to do all the work for them. So you want them to be critical learners. So you want to ask them why, how, what, where. Rather, if they give you a simple answer, ask them to go in deeper. What are the whys? What are the hows? What is the where? You want them to delve in. You want them to give you critical thinking. You want them to give you great knowledge, and to go beyond just a simple answer. So this method obviously is the method that everybody uses. It's basically the teacher-centered, which is you're just talking, and then one student will probably be sleeping in class because you're just using too much of the talking time, and you're not giving students time to engage and talk and cooperate and that collaborative effort. So this method might work for a couple students, one or two, but it will not work for all students. So basically you need to be able to be cognitive, and you need to be mindful of all the students. So you don't want to put one student to sleep by why you're 30 minutes into the lecture, you keep talking and explaining. And yes, their attention span is short. So they want to be able to soak in what you're telling them and then put it into practice. So this method is what I've seen teaching in America. It's basically the model that everybody uses, just that the teacher is the knowledgeable one. They just keep giving information, which is correct. They do need to give information, but they also need to give time for students to take in that knowledge and then apply it. And what Christoph will talk about tomorrow is problem-based learning. So you want them to be able to solve problems, be able to do a lot of things. And that's where they need the time to be able to solve problems, solve basic exercises, assignments, things like that. So this is the method that a lot of teachers are using, which is the teacher-centered learning. Basically, the knowledge and the experience is coming from the teacher straight to the class. So, but we want to move to student-centered learning, which is collaborative, individual students. Basically, they're giving experience, knowledge, their beliefs. So the knowledge flow is going all over. Okay, it's fluid. Basically, the students are sharing with the teacher is sharing with the students. They might be going on the board to answer questions. They might be doing a group project. They might be in pairs. They might be doing group work. So it's great for the teacher to give brief instructions, give a lesson plan, and then allow students ample time to collaborate, talk, answer questions. So this is the method and the methodology and pedagogy that we want to move to, which is the student-centered learning. Obviously, when it comes to the teacher-centered course design, obviously you see I. So it's more about the teacher. You know, what do I know that is important in the field? How can I organize this and tell the students, how can I test what I taught? So it's more about, it's centered around the teacher. That's the design, course design. We want to move away from the teacher being the I and having so much control in the classroom to student-centered course where it's what do students, more about focus on students, fostering the students, learning their objectives, assessments, learning activities, content. We want it to be more student-centered, student-focused. Obviously here you have another diagram that is teacher-centered model versus the student-centered model. Obviously in one aspect of the teacher-centered model, they're spectators. Students are just listening while the teachers are performing, transferring knowledge, and the students are passive while the teachers are active. But when we move to the student-centered model, you see how it's more of a cohesive of both blend. The teacher is doing some teaching while the students are active players. They're both active. It's a learning environment. It's more focused on understanding, while the teacher method is more on grades, pumping out grades. It's more collaborative, cooperative, instead of individual and competitive, okay? Once again, this is another model that they're talking about, this teacher-centered versus learner-centered, about fostering learner-centered belief, making sure you have a positive environment for teaching and learning. You're engaging in deep studies and learning approaches rather than the teacher being obviously the facilitator, the one who's just transferring information. It's not a collaborative effort. It's not a cohesiveness of in terms of what are the students getting out of. It's more of, okay, I'm going to give you this knowledge, this information, and then you just basically memorize it and then repeat cycle for your exams and things like that. Now there's a video that I want to show you guys. Hopefully this will work. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to show the video at the end just in case some technological difficulties what we might have. So I'll show you guys the video because I'm pretty sure you might need a break from my voice and hear another perspective as well. So I'll do that at the end. Okay, obviously this is more about this teacher-centered. Students are working alone. Teachers are monitoring basically, and they're kind of just hovering around the students. They're kind of just correcting everything. You have teachers that just come to the classroom. No, that's right. That's correct. No, they're choosing the topics. Basically, they're evaluating the student learning, which is important, but the classroom is quiet. Students are not being attentive. They're on their phones. They're probably on Snapchat or whatever social medias they use nowadays. It's more about the instructor just talks, the student listens. The focus is on the instructor. And we want to obviously move away from that because that doesn't help the development and involvement and engagement and preparation for the students. So we want to move obviously to a better model, which is a student-centered model. The classroom often could be obviously noisy and busy, but you want a busy classroom. Obviously, you can do classroom management to make sure the noise is leveled off, make sure you give students warnings. But this method is a lot better because you have students are they're learning from each other. Sometimes, yes, the students do learn from you as the instructor the best, but they also learn from each other, their peers. Sometimes they will talk to each other. They will, kind of collaborate. Okay, do you know this? Oh, I don't know this. Um, you know, so basically, students are able to talk without the instructor monitoring and basically kind of checking on them, making sure they're not being too loud and things like that. Students are answering each other's questions, using the teacher as
Correct.
an information resource. That's the most important thing, that you're there as an important information resource. You can give the knowledge, the information. Obviously, you're the native speaker or you're the main teacher, it's chemistry or whatever subject you're teaching. Obviously, you're the one with the knowledge, but you also want students to be able to take that knowledge in, be able to interact with the teachers, with the instructor and others as well. So now we're going to move to some practical applications. Obviously, we're teaching online this semester, and who knows when we'll be back to the classroom. So a lot of this really works great in the classroom because you can move around, you can interact with the students. Now that Anhar was obviously talking about the online, there is obviously not as much as creativity and not as much as management that you can do. You're not seeing the students face to face. They're virtual. You're teaching remotely. So these are some practical applications that for those of us who are teaching English here, teaching the fundamentals, reading, writing, and listening and speaking, you can allow students to read passages, practice their pronunciation, fluency in reading while giving them feedback. Okay, so what I do is I let them read the reading passages, reading 1 and reading 2, and I say, Ahmed or Ali, please read. And as they're reading, I'm listening attentively and I'm giving them good feedback. Okay, if they mispronounce a word or they don't know what that word means, I try my best to kind of give them a little bit of feedback. Okay, that word means this. Okay, what do you guys think the word means? Kind of get them to also solve the problems as well. Like, okay, one student might not know what the word means, but another student will know what it means, and it gives them that boost, that confidence. Give them time to develop their reading skill abilities and vocabulary development, and make sure students can comprehend what they're reading by them giving you a summary of the reading passage. So if we did a passage on elephants or animals or species, and you want to say, okay, Ahmed, can you give me a summary in your own words? What did you think this was summary reading passage was about? It's a great way to get the students involved. I know sometimes student participation is low, but you still can, those students that are active and that are there, that constantly come, will still be able to benefit and talk back to you. This is another topic that Anhar will be talking about, which is like the writing. Okay, he will give his expertise on that, but for me, I'm just showing you guys some practical application. Obviously, we're using Blackboard this semester, and there's a lot of features that you can do on there. You could share files such as videos, PDFs, um, writing samples. You could do breakout groups, put the students into breakout groups. You can take polls to survey the students about their learning. Okay, are you guys what do you guys think about this? Okay, what did you find the topic to be interesting? You can do that under basically the tab here. I don't know if you guys can see. Obviously, when you open the Blackboard, when you go into a classroom session, you have these options. You have the chat, you have the students where you can mute, and then you have another option. So that's where you could share documents. You can poll the students. Okay, you could share applications. Okay, and share your book, the unlocked book, videos, illustrations. sometimes if you're teaching medicine, a lot of you guys, some of you guys are teaching medicine, which is a very hard course to teach, especially online. But you can basically show them maybe some diagrams online, maybe, okay, what does the pancreas cancer look like, or what does someone who's anemic, or what does cancer look like? All of these things, so that way students can using visual as to predict content. So looking at visuals and using that as content, so they could that way they could put the word association. They could put the word with the image. You could also share the blank whiteboard to demonstrate how to write essays and paragraphs. I think that's one of the areas that a lot of students lack skills in, is the writing ability. What I do is usually I will share the blank whiteboard, and I'll write down, okay, this is the writing task. Give me one topic sentence, 6 supporting sentence, 1 conclusion. I'll illustrate them an example of how to do it, and then I'll ask them for it next week, and then I'll give them feedback. Obviously, Enhar will talk more about writing and practical applications of that. Now we're going to move to ESL references and resources, okay? These are great resources that I've looked up. Please take a picture of this or screenshot it. And this is something that you guys should look at for your students, okay? Because as much as we teach them, they also need practical experience as well. And they need to be able to go online and on their own, during their own time, get more experience. So these are really great resources. I provided the links there. Dave's ESL is basically, most people think it's a job website, but there's also resources, modules on there for students to learn things. You could print it out. The vocabulary and grammar is really great. That link teaches students about grammar and vocabulary, all at different levels, intermediate, beginning, advanced. So please definitely click on these links, take a picture, go through them, be knowledgeable about them so you can refer them to your students if they want extra practice, because the best way for students to gain a great grasp of this language is to keep on practicing. Practice makes perfect, as they say. So books, the book materials for students and teachers, these are some great book materials for students and teachers. Obviously, you would want to check these out. You can find them on Amazon, Jarir, or Noon. There's some great books that for yourself and for the students. As teachers, we need to have teacher development and keep on learning and keep on developing so that we can help our students best. And students obviously would love to have more material for them to learn about. So these are some good recommendations and books that I found online that you can, check it out yourself and see how you like it. And this is references and citations from what I've used in this lecture. Okay, now, this is the most fun part. Any questions or comments? All right, so the lecture part is over. You guys can take a breather now. And who would like to ask questions? Don't make me pick on you guys one by one. So please, if you even have comments or maybe I missed something, and you guys would like to add on something that I might have missed, you guys are experts as well. Just because I'm presenting doesn't mean that I'm the most knowledgeable person. So if you guys have something you want to add to, maybe from your personal experience in this student-centered versus teacher-centered, please do comment, please give feedback. Any questions? The floor is open for you guys.
Yeah, just that, Ariel, I'd just like to add on to student-centered learning. It also helped the low proficiency student in the class to be more active because, as you spoke, put the students in group, which I usually do in my class. I mean, when we had lectures, if you come into my class, you see them sitting in groups. So what happens is that I feel the low proficiency student, it able to help him to partake in the lesson with his colleagues in the class, right? At the same time. And I always put high proficiency students mixed with low proficiency students. So the smart guy always helps, you know what I mean, the little quieter guy in the class at the same time. So you get the low proficiency student you helping him out at the same time. So that's what I just wanted to add to that, to the bit that you said earlier on. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. Thank you. Great addition. Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to add a question, comment, anything? Okay, anyone else would like to, has any question or concern or comment?
I'd just like to say, Awil, that your workshop today or this evening was very informative, and thank you. Well done, buddy.
No, thank you very much. Shukran. Okay, anyone else have any last minute thoughts or concerns or something that I might have missed that you guys would like to add?
Well, I've got a question if you don't mind.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Kabir.
When you mentioned that there is a 70% to 30% ratio of teacher talking time to student talking time, citing that research suggests as such, could you quote me the research?
Oh, okay, yeah. So basically, that was from How to Teach book. Okay, that comes from the author. It's also one of the books that we've studied in TESOL, and basically, he's the author of the book. Pearson, he's the one who basically, with other researchers, have came up with the method that it is 30 to 70. Other people quote 80 to 20, but I was going from that book, which I cited and quoted, is that 30 to 70% is appropriate time split between teacher talking time and student talking time. Obviously, there's other research out there that says 80 to 20. The most important thing is to get enough instructions to the students so they know what to do and they're informed, and you can clear the instructions, make sure they're clear, make sure they're, the students are attentive to your instructions, they're paying attention. So that's the time where you don't want students to be talking. It's when you're basically giving out the information to the students about how to do something, how to do this experiment, or how to do an exercise. Okay, when you're also explaining the grammar, subject verb agreement, or you're teaching them different types of information, you want them to be very attentive and listening. That's where comes the model of spending 30 or 20% teacher talking time versus the rest of the time where students are talking, engaging.
Right. So when you mentioned the ratio of 70 to 30, you're obviously talking about the average, right? I mean, it could shift up and down because I'm personally a proponent of student talking time. I think it could be as low as 50 to 50, especially if you're explaining grammar, or it could be as high as 95% to 5%. Meaning 95% of the time the students partake in the lesson and 5% of the time the teacher does the explanation. So my guess is you're probably averaging it out and saying that the 70 to 30, because there's no fixed figure here, right?
Yeah,
that's what
right.
you mean.
Yeah, you're right. It all depends on obviously the information that you're giving to the students, on how much time you need. Obviously, sometimes there's days where you'll do 40, 60, 80, but the general rule of thumb is to spend less time talking and give students more time to talk and to interact and to engage.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kabir. That was great. Excellent. Okay, anyone else? Well, if that's all, thank you guys very much for attending. Anything that I've